Good morning, my beautiful queens. How are you in your realm today? I'm out for my lovely walk, enjoying the sunshine before it gets to be 91 degrees today. I want to talk to you about self-trust and how we can rebuild self-trust with emotional eating. We spend so much time degrading our self-trust. Every time we tell ourselves we're not going to do it again, we're not going to binge, we're not going to overeat, and then we do it again anyway. And it doesn't, and I guess what I want to say is every time we do that, every time we go against what we tell ourselves we're going to do, it reinforces the feelings of, one, not being able to trust yourself. Two, I'm unworthy of doing what I say I'm going to do. We are reinforcing those feelings of failure, of judgment, of shame. Why don't I have the willpower to stop or to not even start? Of being undisciplined, of being broken. And we don't even realize, because the behavior most often is unconscious until we are done. We don't often realize what we're doing in the moment until after the fact. And then it's almost like you come to and realize, holy shit, I just did it again. And then you go into the self-beratement, name-calling, judging, criticizing, guilt, shame, all of the feelings afterwards. And part of the way to get out of all of this is becoming more aware in the moment of what is going on. We can't change what we aren't aware of. So we have to start bringing conscious awareness to the unconscious behavior. And to do that, we have to be able to pause in the moment, to take that breath and say, what is really going on here? And sometimes it's hard because you don't want to pause. You just want to shove that food in your mouth. I used to be the same way. I remember walking past the kitchen counter. My husband had just made boxed blueberry muffins, and they smelled really good. But in the back of my mind, I hear, you don't want those because you know how they taste. They're not going to taste as good as they smell. But as I'm thinking that thought, I see my arm reach out, grab one out of the tin, slather it with butter, and shove it in my mouth. I couldn't stop myself. What was going on in that moment? The unconscious thoughts that were driving the behavior of I want that muffin, even though I know I'm not going to like how it tastes. And to this day, I still don't know. But I was consciously aware of it happening, even though I couldn't stop myself from doing it. And that's the first step. The next step is, okay, it happened. I'm going to give myself grace. I'm going to forgive myself for it happening. And then I'm going to ask, why did I do it? What was the thought that drove the emotion that pushed the behavior for me to pick up that muffin? And I want you to stop in the moment and ask yourself that too, even if it's after the fact. And then stop to listen. What is the first thought that pops into your head? That is most often the real answer. It might not make sense, doesn't have to, but just go with it. And then I invite you to keep a journal, keep a log of those things so that you can start to see the pattern. Because once you see the pattern, you're more likely to be able, it brings awareness, but then you're more likely to stop it in the moment, because you can say, oh, hey, wait, this is my pattern of every time I come home from work, the first thing I do is go to the fridge because something triggers me at home. What is the trigger when you get home? Or whatever your pattern is. So the first step is bringing conscious awareness to the unconscious behavior. So how do we then go about rebuilding the self-trust? Well, we start with micro habits, micro behaviors, and small consistent steps, right? I've talked about this before. It's not the big, huge aha moments that create transformation. We start with a small consistent step and we build on it. What are those small consistent steps? Well, we can start with making a small promise to ourselves. And that might be complete one tiny promise to yourself every day. I'm going to commit to drinking 1 8-ounce glass of water before coffee every day. And it might not be before coffee if you don't drink coffee. It could be, I'm going to walk to the mailbox and back today, every day today, or at the end of the driveway, or I'm going to walk 1 lap around the house or the apartment complex or whatever, wherever you live. What is one micro promise that you can make and complete every day this week? And then I also invite you to reflect on, when you keep that promise, how does it feel? I want you to stop, 1, and celebrate that you did it. 2, how did it feel after you completed it? I just want you to stop and notice how you felt in your body. What were the thoughts you had after you completed it? Most often for me, see, you did it. Then celebrate. Happy dance, high five, whatever it is. Don't celebrate with food. Another micro promise you could keep to yourself is, before I eat any meal, before I put any food in my mouth, I'm going to check in with myself. I want you to place your hand on your heart, and I want you to ask, what am I feeling right now? And just breathe for 30 seconds and listen to what's coming up for you. Your unconscious mind will tell you. All you have to do is stop and listen. Another one that we could try, create a non-negotiable. I am unwilling to let this thing or another day go by without doing this thing. And it could be, I'm going to spend 5 minutes every day journaling my feelings. I'm going to stretch for 5 minutes. It could be, I am no longer going to eat a certain food for this week. And see if you can keep that non-negotiable. And it's not, if you're choosing to not eat one food this week, it's not a forever thing. It's just this week. And then journal on, become aware of how you felt not eating it. What were the thoughts that came up? Why do I want that food? What does that food do for me? What emotions am I suppressing by eating that food? And then after the week, if you so choose to go back to eating that food, then go back to eating it, but don't beat yourself up for it. Just be aware of, I'm giving myself permission to do it. And don't guilt yourself for doing it. That's where a lot of the problem is not being honest with ourselves about what we're doing. The resistance to doing it. The guilt, I gave myself permission to eat it, but now I feel guilty for eating it. Maybe your non-negotiable this week is speaking kindly to myself. I refuse to call myself a name this week. For me, that was, I no longer choose to call myself a pig. I'm a fat pig. You're such a pig. Especially after I ate my bowl of ice cream with 5 scoops in it, with the peanut butter and the chocolate syrup and the raspberry pie fillings with the coconut flakes. After I ate dinner, which was enough for 3 people. And then I'd eat my ice cream 20 minutes later. And then after I was done, call myself a fat pig and then go into the guilt and shame. And then sometimes find myself looking for cookies or something else afterwards. Or go to bed and hide myself under my covers because I felt so guilty and shameful for doing what I just did. So maybe your non-negotiable this week is, I choose to no longer call myself whatever name you call yourself. Let's start with being kind to ourselves. We are kind to others. If you would like the list of my 10 micro actions to help rebuild self-trust, drop a me or raise your hand in the comments and I'll reach out so we can send that over to you. Once we can start building self-trust, we can start down the road to creating other things that let go of emotional eating. All right, my lovely queens, I hope you have a radiant day and stay true to you.